No time. Leave her. Those 4 words didn't just end a transmission. They almost ended Staff Sergeant Maya Carter's life. A blast tore her convoy apart. Her radio was crushed. Her team pushed forward, unaware she'd been thrown off the road and into the open desert. The heat climbed past 118 degrees. A hostile battalion swept the dunes, hunting for bodies. 6 hours later, she was officially declared Kia. But the Russian colonel tracking heat signatures saw something else. A lone survivor. A fighter who'd already killed 3 of his men. He knew her grandfather. He thought he knew her limits. Maya Carter was about to prove him wrong, 1 bullet at a time. Before we begin, tell us, where are you watching from? And if you believe honor still matters, tap the screen and keep their legacy alive. The desert was silent when the crosshair steadied over Maya Carter's eye. For 6 hours, her team had marked her as dead. But through the enemy's scope, she was very much alive, dust-covered, bleeding, and already 3 kills into a fight she never asked for. Then the scene snapped back. A blast ripped open the morning, flipping her Humvee like a metal coin. Glass rained through the cabin as everything went white. Maya woke upside down, lungs burning with sand. Her ears rang hard, 1 long scream of static. The vehicle's frame groaned like it wanted to bury her. She forced herself free, dragging her ribs across shattered glass. Heat swallowed her instantly, brutal, flat, 50 degrees Celsius. Even breathing felt like inhaling fire. She checked her kit with fast, practiced motions. M4 intact, 5 magazines, 150 rounds. Her radio was crushed, and 4 liters of water leaked into the dirt almost as fast as her hope. Engines rolled across the horizon, distant but growing. 6 vehicles, then 7. Spreading out like a fan. They weren't searching for survivors, they were searching for her body. Maya crawled toward a slope of broken rock, staying low. Her right knee buckled, but she kept moving. Pain meant she was alive. That was good enough. She found a shade pocket just as the first enemy truck braked near the smoking Humvee. Boots hit the ground. Voices drifted calm, confident, systematic. They formed a perimeter with the precision of men who had done this many times. She stayed still until their rhythm settled. Then she slipped away, 1 careful slide at a time. Distance was survival, and survival meant she needed water. For hours, she moved through heat that bent the horizon like melting glass. She searched for signs, green smudges of scrub brush, insects, any hint of moisture below the surface. Her grandfather's voice echoed in memory. Don't trust the desert. Read it. She found what she needed in a shallow depression, where a single thorn bush clung to life. The sand felt cooler there. She dropped to her knees and started digging. Her fingers hit damp soil, then a thin layer of water. The relief lasted half a second until she heard the rattle. A coiled snake lunged up from the hole, fast as a snapped cable. Instinct took over. Her knife flashed once. The snake went still, its body softening under the heat. Maya filtered the muddy water through her scarf. 2 slow sips steadied her breathing. Living mattered more than tasting. She wiped her hands in the sand and froze. An enemy patrol walked less than 30 meters away, their rifles low, eyes scanning the dunes. 1 soldier paused, lifting his head as if he smelled blood. Maya pressed into the sand, barely breathing. He stepped closer, 10 meters, 8, 5. Her hand closed around her knife again. He turned his back at the last second. That tiny mistake cost him everything. Maya rose behind him and pulled him down silently. She dragged the body behind a rock cut and searched it quickly. A radio, a half-charged smartphone, and the first crack in the truth she thought she knew. On the phone was a photo of Luis Ramos, her teammate. He stood next to an unknown man, face blurred, handing over a sealed envelope. The timestamp was recent. Very recent. She didn't have time to process it. 2 more patrolmen were calling for their missing partner. She slipped away before they could triangulate her position. The desert stretched open before her like a burning sea. Somewhere ahead, more vehicles were moving. Somewhere behind, the lie about her death was closing in. Maya adjusted her grip on her rifle and headed toward higher ground. Distance, water, ammunition. Those were the only things that mattered. until she could figure out why Luis was meeting strangers in the dark. The sun climbed higher, sharpening every shadow. Her tracks vanished in the wind as fast as she made them, but the engines behind her kept growing louder. She inhaled slowly, steadying her nerves. "They think him dead," she whispered to herself. "Let's use that." She tightened her scarf, turned her body toward the next ridge, and began moving again. One step, then another. The hunt had begun, and Maya Carter refused to die on someone else's terms. Night crept across the desert like a slow-moving shadow. Maya Carter used the darkness the same way she used her rifle, precisely, deliberately. The enemy patrols kept circling, but now they were stretched thin, burning fuel and nerves. She climbed a ridge of sharp volcanic rock. From there, she saw a lone cargo truck idling beside a cluster of boulders. 2 guards leaned against its bumper, exhausted, careless. Maya settled behind a slab of stone, body still, breath steady. Her rifle tracked the first guard's shoulder like a metronome. One press of the trigger dropped him before he ever looked up. The second guard froze, confused by the soft thud. He raised his weapon, but fear made him slow. Maya's second shot found him before he decided what to do. She approached carefully, scanning arcs, checking angles. The truck still hummed quietly, the engine warm. Inside, she found water, medical supplies, and an encrypted tablet glowing with active files. She scrolled quickly. Dozens of reports referenced one name: Carter Evaluation, Phase 1 complete. Under it, Ramos Asset, prepared for sacrifice protocol. A cold knot formed in her chest. Luis Ramos wasn't just meeting someone. He was part of something bigger, willingly or not. Maya copied the files onto a drive and powered down the device. She didn't take the truck. Leaving tracks would invite immediate pursuit. But she set a timed charge beneath the engine block. The blast lit the desert behind her as she disappeared into the rocky maze. The concussion rolled through the dunes like distant thunder. Enemy radios crackled instantly, their voices sharp with panic. She kept moving, following the jagged ridgeline east. Her body ached from dehydration, but adrenaline carried her forward. Survival was no longer just practical, it was strategic. 2 hours later, she spotted a temporary patrol base. 4 vehicles, a command tent, a dozen soldiers. They believed the night protected them. She crept into position on a rise of broken shale. Her hands worked with quiet confidence, assembling a cluster of grenades. A simple, timed bundle, effective, crude, devastating. When she lobbed it toward the fuel drums, she didn't stay to watch. The explosion roared behind her, swallowing shouts and metal in one violent wave. Secondary blasts rolled upward as ammunition cooked off like fireworks. She sprinted to a new vantage point. Every muzzle flash in the valley lit up her scope. 10 measured shots later, their chain of command was in ruins. Static hissed through the stolen radio. Then a voice surfaced, cold, precise, unmistakably foreign. "Operator Carter, this is Colonel Victor Dragunov. I respect the fight you bring." Maya froze. The name was one she recognized from her grandfather's stories, half legend, half warning. Dragunov continued, almost calmly. "Your grandfather wounded me once. I've waited decades to meet the one who carries his blood." She clicked the radio off, pulse steadying under the weight of the words. The past wasn't haunting her, it was hunting her. Dawn crept over the dunes before she reached the canyon system marked on her mental map. The walls rose steep around her, cutting off the wind, trapping heat, even at sunrise. She found a shaded pocket to drink and hide. Her rest lasted 90 seconds. Engines growled again, multiple vehicles, tires crunching gravel. They were sweeping the canyon mouth, guessing shedhead for higher cover. She scaled a narrow crack in the rock, fingers slipping on hot stone. When she reached the top, she saw their formation clearly. 5 trucks fanned out, guns mounted, soldiers scanning upward. She waited until the lead truck passed under her. Then she pushed a stone the size of a helmet over the edge. It crashed onto the hood, drawing every rifle skyward. She opened fire from above. Controlled bursts rained down, pinning them in place and forcing them to scatter. 3 soldiers fell before they even located her position. But she didn't stay. She slid down the far side of the ridge, boots skidding, dust billowing, distance again, always distance. By midday, the temperature spiked hard. Mirages shimmered on the horizon like broken mirrors. The air itself looked bruised. Maya found a dry wash filled with pale, chalky sand. She followed it until she reached a wind-carved overhang. Perfect shade, and more importantly, perfect concealment. She took a moment to breathe. Then she replayed the photo of Luis Ramos in her mind. His eyes in that image weren't scared, they were determined. That meant only one thing. Whatever this was, Ramos wasn't just a pawn. He had chosen his role. A gust of hot wind whipped through the wash. Dust spiraled upward in tight columns. Another sandstorm was coming. Maya checked the sky, the light, the shifting air. She secured her gear and tightened her scarf. The storm would cover her tracks, but it would blind her too. Somewhere in the static of the wind, her stolen radio beeped again. Dragunov's voice returned, softer this time, almost conversational. You survived Phase 1. Good. Your grandfather would expect no less. She didn't answer. She simply shouldered her rifle and stepped into the rising wall of sand, ready for whatever Phase 2 demanded. The sandstorm hit without warning. One moment, Maya Carter could see the horizon. The next, the world vanished behind a wall of roaring dust. Her goggles rattled as grains of sand blasted her face. Visibility dropped to nothing, just a shifting blur of orange and static. In storms like this, even footsteps disappeared in seconds. She moved by memory, feeling the ground with each step. The canyon walls became vague shadows beside her. Every sound dissolved into wind except one. A mechanical hum cut through the storm. Deep, rhythmic. A drone. She dropped instantly, pressing her body flat against the sand. Predator drones rarely flew this low unless they were tracking something, and right now, Maya's heat signature looked exactly like a hostile moving through the storm. A warning tone whined overhead. Her muscles tightened. A laser had painted her position. She scrambled for her pack, yanking out a cracked signal mirror, her grandfather's relic. In a sandstorm, it was nearly useless, but it was all she had. She angled it toward the faint outline of sunlight behind the dust. 3 flashes. 3 more. SOS, in its simplest form. The hum shifted direction. The lock tone vanished. The missile didn't fire. She rolled onto her back, chest rising hard, dust scraping her throat. Thanks, Granddad, she whispered. The desert wasn't done with her yet, and neither was Dragunov. By late afternoon, the storm eased. Shapes emerged where the haze thinned. Burned-out trees, shattered stone, and fresh tire tracks. She followed them east until they merged with a road carved between dunes. 2 vehicles moved ahead, armored. Slow, confident. A convoy. Maya took the high route, climbing a ridge of fractured rock. From above, the convoy looked predictable. A lead transport, a support truck, and a command vehicle with heavy antennas. She knew that configuration. Colonel Victor Dragunov traveled like that, always mobile, always protected. She waited until the vehicles entered a shallow ravine. Then she slid down the backside of the ridge, planting charges sheds scavenged from earlier wrecks. The desert swallowed her footprints as she retreated to a shooting position. The first vehicle triggered the IED. A fireball erupted, flinging metal into the ravine walls. Soldiers bailed out, shouting, coughing, scrambling. Maya opened fire with disciplined precision. 3 shots. 3 targets down. The remaining soldiers dove for cover, unaware she was already repositioning. The command vehicle braked hard. Doors slammed open. Dragunov stepped out, calm despite the chaos. He didn't return fire. He simply scanned the ridge until his eyes found her silhouette. Then he raised a hand, open palm, universal signal for parley. Maya hesitated. Every instinct screamed trap. But Dragunov wasn't hiding behind his men. He had walked out alone. She descended slowly, rifle lowered but ready. The wind carried sand between them like drifting smoke. 50 meters separated hunter and hunted. Dragunov spoke first. His voice was quiet, steady, almost respectful. Your grandfather stood exactly where you stand now. Maya kept her steps measured. You knew him. Every soldier in my unit knew him, Dragunov replied. He reached into his vest, slowly, deliberately pulling out an old photograph. A younger Dragunov stood beside a team of Russian operators. A rough, uneven scar crossed his left shoulder. "Your grandfather did this," he said, touching the scar. "He spared my life minutes later. I spent 34 years trying to answer why." His eyes were tired, but they held no hate. Maya said nothing. The desert wind filled the silence. Dragunov continued, "You are not being hunted, Maya Carter. You are being evaluated." He held out a small encrypted drive. "This contains every network file. Decades of operations. Their architects. Their money. Their rot." She didn't take it immediately. "Why give this to me?" "Because he asked me to choose honor, and I failed him for decades." Dragunov stepped closer, stopping at the limit of her reach. "You succeeded where most of my men would have died in hours. You aren't a threat. You're the answer to a debt." The drive dropped into her hand. Cold, heavy, final. Dragunov exhaled like head, been holding the breath for years. A distant engine rumbled. American helicopters, 2 Black Hawks, 1 Apache closing hard. Dragunov looked up at the sky, then back at her. "I will tell the network you died," he said. "I will buy you 5 minutes. Use them well." He turned and lifted his radio. Target neutralized. No survivors. Explosions echoed behind him, his men detonating their own vehicles. Smoke billowed upward, cloaking the scene in convincing destruction. He gave Maya a final small nod, an old warrior's farewell. She backed away, sprinting for higher ground as the helicopter rotors thundered overhead. Sand whipped around her legs. The Apache dropped into a protective angle, guns hot. A Black Hawk landed crooked in the shifting sand. A crewman waved frantically at her. "Maya! Move! Move!" She dove inside just as the helicopter lifted, rotors shredding the hot air. Down below, Dragunov's silhouette stood alone beside the burning wrecks. He raised one hand, palm open. The same silent salute her grandfather once gave him. The desert shrank beneath them. Maya tightened her grip on the encrypted drive. Whatever fight her grandfather started was now hers to finish. The war hadn't ended, but a new chapter had just begun. The Black Hawk clawed upward through boiling air. Sand whipped across the cabin in violent spirals. Maya Carter held the encrypted drive against her vest like it was alive. The crew chief shouted over the noise. "Hang on, we've got incoming wind shear." The helicopter bucked hard, pitching left, then right. Maya braced against the wall, boots scraping metal. The doors rattled as the pilots fought the crosswind. Black smoke rose behind them, fading into the dunes. The Apache gunship swung into position above their flight path. It scanned the ravine with rapid sweeps of its sensors. No one followed. Dragunov had kept his word. The storm finally thinned, revealing a strip of coastline. Sunlight broke across the water like shards of glass. For the first time in hours, Maya exhaled without tasting sand. The helicopter descended toward a remote landing pad near a forward operations camp. Medics ran out with gear already unzipped. They reached her as soon as her boots hit the ground. She waved them off gently. "No hospitals. Not yet." Her voice was hoarse, scraped raw by dust. Inside the command tent, officers gathered around an operations table. Screens flickered with live feeds and satellite overlays. One general stepped forward, jaw tight. "What did you bring back?" he asked. Maya placed the encrypted drive on the table. "Everything they've been hiding. For decades, technicians rushed it to an isolated console. Encryption layers peeled away one by one. The room grew silent as file names appeared: operations, shell companies, assassinations." "Jesus," someone whispered. Another officer crossed himself without thinking. This wasn't intelligence. It was an entire underworld. A comms officer approached with a sealed envelope. "Message for you, Sergeant Carter. Found in the wreckage of an enemy scout." Her pulse tightened. Luis Ramos' handwriting. She unfolded it carefully. Inside was a single line. "I chose this. Maya, make it count. No excuses, no apologies. Just the truth he had carried into the desert." She closed the note and slid it into her pocket. Hours later, arrests began across 14 countries. 53 names flagged by the drive were detained before dawn. A sprawling network collapsed in less than a day. Maya gave her full debrief, voice steady even when describing Dragunov's parlay. The officers listened without interruption. Warriors recognize warriors, even across borders. By evening, she stood alone on the shoreline. Waves rolled in with slow, steady rhythm. For the first time, the desert felt far away. A junior officer approached, holding a metal box. "Ma'am?" This arrived from HQ. She opened it in the fading light. Inside lay Luis Ramos, posthumous medal, Navy Cross, deep blue, heavy ribbon. The inscription read, "For valor beyond fear." Maya closed the box quietly. "Thank you, Luis," she whispered. He had played a long game, one she finally understood. Weeks passed. The intelligence inside the drive reshaped operations across entire regions. Maya stayed out of the spotlight, working quietly in the background. 6 months later, she transferred to a coastal training facility. Her new assignment? Lead Advanced SARE Instruction. She accepted without hesitation. The first morning of training was cold and bright. A line of new candidates stood at attention near the dunes. Their faces carried equal parts hope and fear. Maya walked the line slowly, eyes sharp. One young woman held herself with rigid confidence. Her stance reminded Maya of someone strong, stubborn, unbreakable. Maya stopped in front of her. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small brass compass, the same one her grandfather had carried across 2 wars. "For you," she said. The candidate blinked, startled. I don't understand." "You will," Maya replied. "Just survive the next 96 hours. The girl nodded, gripping the compass like a lifeline. As the class jogged toward the dunes, Maya stayed back. The ocean breeze pushed her hair off her face. For a moment, she felt the weight of 2 generations standing behind her. Then her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She opened the message. "Carter, Dragunov here. One of the network's inner circle escaped during the raids. Ivan Kozlov. He knows you have the drive. He knows where you teach." A second line appeared. "Be ready. This time, he won't stay in the shadows." Maya stared at the dunes where her students were disappearing over the ridge. The desert might have released her, but war hadn't. She tucked the phone away and began walking. "Old ways," she murmured. "New fight." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of salt and sand. A new chapter waited beyond the horizon. Maya Carter was ready to meet it. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.